everyone. Today I just wanted to get on here because I felt inspired to have a bit of a rant about the realities of coaching, the industry, what it actually involves when you're on the client side, and what it's like behind the scenes too, because the reality is it's not quite what everyone thinks it is, and we all have very different impressions and understanding as to what being a coach involves, what being a client of coaching involves. And I want to debunk some BS around the industry and also my own 2 cents on a lot of this stuff too, because particularly if you're new to this and you come to a page like mine and you're expecting to find all the answers, it's a bit more to it than that. So anyways, let's dive in. And for anyone who's coming on, hello everyone. Hello Andra, hello Sarath, and hello DDS Ducky. I am putting this on to IGTV later. So let's get into it. After being in this industry now for a little over a year, I have to say that I really enjoy it. Like, I really enjoy being a coach. I really enjoy what I do. It fits me like a glove, and I really feel like it's just been one of those things which has been really life-changing in a positive way. And today I really want to go into town talking about how I feel about coaching in general, what it is, misconceptions around it, and also some observations that I picked up along the way. So let me just start with coaching in general. Basically, in my opinion, it's therapy off the rails. In other words, the way I think coaching works is you're really getting people to focus on a direction they want to go towards, with the intention of helping them to get to that destination without giving them direct advice, them being clients, and really helping people to understand their own blind spots. I think a lot of coaches in their marketing make it seem like they're the silver bullet to a lot of their clients' and audiences' problems, but it simply couldn't be further from the truth. When I present my knowledge to people in the form of content, this is stuff that I personally think and feel. It's not just stuff that I read out of a textbook. This is stuff that I've found across the work of my experience in life, the work that I've done with my clients. And to be honest, I think a lot of the stuff that we find out there with other coaches, to be quite honest, is insulting to the intellect of the people who are watching and reading. I think that it actually does a disservice to the audience, and I think it's not fair to any of you guys to be made to feel that if you're looking for a relationship, all you need to do is be mindful of the red flags, because quite honestly, that's not really going to do you much of a service if you want a healthy, sustainable relationship. I think the reality of any of these practices, whether you come to us for coaching, you come to therapy or anything like that, is to always throw the ownership back onto the client and be like, well, what is it you need to do for yourself? And quite honestly, at times, sitting with ourselves and acknowledging that we are the common denominator and that we're the ones with the problem that needs to be worked on is painful. Many of us don't want to acknowledge the fact that we have to work through our stuff. We're not the whole problem, but we are 50% of the equation, and honestly, the only thing that can be worked on. We can't control our exes, we can't control what's happened in our past, but we can control how we think and feel about it, and also what we choose to do going forward in order to reach our goals. And I think too often there are too many people who believe that it's the job of the therapist or the coach to magically get the person to where they want to be. And it's made worse when coaches create programs, and I mean, I do this, where it's like 8 weeks to find your soulmate love, 12 weeks to get the body of your dreams, 2 months till you have the dream job that you've always wanted, or build the business of your dreams. And the reality is that it simply isn't going to work like that for everyone. Everyone comes in to coaching at a different level to where they're at. Say, for example, you've been studying maths or math, depending on where you are, for a long time, and you're looking to perform at an Olympic, at an elite level of mathematics, and you've never even done mathematics before, but you like the idea of it, you're going to have to start at the basics. But it's problematic when there's coaches out there promising you're going to be performing at an elite level after 8 weeks, because let's be real, unless you're a savant at maths, chances are you're not going to suddenly become a master of mathematics overnight. So let's take the same analogy for relationships. Yes, I've had clients who've then gotten into successful relationships after working with me, but that's because they were ready for it and in the right place. Some people that I work with aren't ready for that, and that's okay, but they're learning the skill set for it. And I always tell people at the outset that I'm not going to guarantee that you're going to be in partnership by the time that you're done working with me, because that's called misleading. And I'm really mindful of that too, because I feel like, particularly in the realm of business coaching, there's a lot of what I call projection, where the coach will say things like, oh, I can see you having a successful business within 8 weeks and having all these clients and your money back, blah, blah, blah. And it's misleading, and also at times really quite disheartening and also oppressive for the client, because they feel like there's so much pressure in order to succeed at something. And for me, one thing I really try and aim with my clients is to just reassure them that you're at the right place. You're learning the right skills for your level, for where you're at in your journey. And then if you believe that, you're suddenly going to have like the relationship of your dreams overnight, chances are it's not going to happen. In fact, I often would prefer you not to be in a relationship off the back of working with me, because I think it's better to just understand your relationship to yourself, because that's more important. That's what's going to help you in the long run. Now, when it comes to the marketing tactics of a lot of coaches, to be honest, I'm not a fan. I really am not a fan of a lot of the stuff that's out there. I have a marketing background, and to be honest, you can look at all the tactics we can use, like having calls to action, funnels, and speaking to our clients' pain points. But to be completely honest, I don't want to give you the impression that, I can solve all of your problems, because whilst I do believe that I know a lot, the answer is I don't know you. I don't know what you exclusively are going through unless I actually sit with you and listen to, what your unique challenges are. Yes, we as a human race do generally go through some pretty similar things, but to make the assumption that you are just like everyone else is arrogant at best, and also deeply misleading for the audience into believing that, their problems are simple and easily solved, because often the problems that we have to sit with are deeply challenging. And it's quite complicated to get over trauma of abandonment, trauma of rejection, external validation, addiction, and other things too that have, caused our lives to be led in a way that's not serving us. The first thing in accepting that most of our patterns of behavior aren't serving us, it's a pretty harsh reality, and it's not fun. So circling back to the way people market themselves in coaching, the reason I'm not a big fan of it is because I feel like a lot of it comes out of scarcity. It comes out of wanting to hit numbers and hustling. I think that there is a lot of effort put in to trying to get as many clients to sign up to a program as possible, with no attention to care with the relationship the coach has with their client. And I really don't stand for that. I think that whilst I've been very fortunate with the coaches that I've had, I have seen plenty of people who create a very distanced, hands-off relationship with the people that they work with. And as a consequence, it can really impact not only the results of the client, but also the relationship and the efficacy of this particular industry as well. I see a lot of coaches who will aim to get as many people signed onto their programs as possible, but they don't talk about how their clients are going on the day-by-day basis. Like, that's where the real transformation happens. Not on the sales call, not with the amount of money that the coach is earning. The day-to-day stuff, which, to be completely honest, is the hard stuff. Signing on a client, in my experience, is actually, it's kind of like an endorphin hit. It feels great at first because like, I made a certain amount of money with this particular person. But the real work of actually sitting with our clients and listening to what they're going through and actually helping them process their stuff in order to get them to where they want to be or closer to it, that's hard work. It's really hard work. And it's not to say that I don't enjoy it. I really do. But it's not about the results they achieve. It's about the stuff that they're overcoming. Overcoming, the people pleasing, overcoming the resistance to boundary setting, overcoming so many toxic people in their lives and actually learning to say no to that kind of crowd and actually support themselves and actually have their own sovereignty. That's the wins I'm after. That's the process that I'm all about. And quite honestly, I feel like a lot of the time that there are too many fucking coaches who don't want to talk about the fact that the energy we put into this space is hard fucking work. But I really do love what I do. And at the same time, I also realize that it's so bloody important to respect our craft, which is the process. Just pausing for one sec, I just want to answer what Ash has said. What's one piece of advice you'd give to a certified new coach in getting ready to launch their coaching business? Oh, I feel like I could say a lot about that. I think the one thing I would say is just enjoy the beginning component. Treat it like you have an open plantation with a lot of soil. You've got a bunch of seeds, a whole bunch of ideas that you want to try, whether it be, creating a webinar, being on YouTube, being on Instagram, and just play with all the options that you have available to you without any expectation of results. Focus more on what you enjoy doing, what you love doing, because there can be a tendency for us to follow best industry practices that we don't necessarily enjoy, burn out because we're not enjoying ourselves, not get clients, and as a consequence, feel defeated and run down and feel like we just don't want to do this anymore. Or we can maybe get a lucky streak, get a lot of people in, but we're not really enjoying it. And it's going to contribute again to burnout because then we're just like, we don't really want this. So in addition to that too, I know that in marketing, we're always about, what is the, what does your ideal avatar, your ideal client want? Fuck that. What do you want? What do you want for your coaching business? Because at the end of the day, yes, we're here to serve our clients. I'm not going to deny that. And I love the work that I do, obviously, and I tailor myself depending on the person that I work with because everyone's different, obviously. But if you don't enjoy what you do, there's no point in showing up at all. Because if you're giving 100% to people and you're like, I'm just not enjoying this, it's a classic case of just not enjoying what you do. So I know that sounds a bit fluffy, but what I really want to try and say from the beginning is try and detach yourself, Ash, and to anyone listening, from what you want to create and focus more on the creation, because that's what's going to give you joy. And if you do it from a place of, you know what, I just feel like creating this today, rather than I have to do X amount of content by this week, by this time, in order to get this number of followers, because then that should surely mean that I'll get X number of clients, you're in the right place. To give you an example, I found that once I leaned back and really stopped caring what, the standards were, I just ended up finding that I not only enjoyed doing what I enjoyed, I really loved it. Hey, Sydney, I actually found that when I stepped back from caring what the algorithm needed, what other people needed, I just enjoyed creating content, and people ended up still signing on to work with me, and it's been absolutely amazing too. Sydney, for anyone who's watching this, is a fellow coach, and she and I have worked hand in hand on a lot of behind the scenes stuff and have talked a lot about this too. She and I are very much in that intermediate phase of having worked with a lot of people and just sort of figuring out what we enjoy rather than just doing what everyone else tells us to do. I think it's very easy in this coaching space to be overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that's out there, to follow these silver bullet templates of things to do, like do beta client testing, which I actually think is really good. Then go on to essentially try one silver bullet method with a social media platform, and then go on to do, masterclasses and webinars, which I don't like. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's the thing, right? You got to figure out what you do like and what you don't like. So to round out my answer to you, Ash, my thing that I really just want to share with you is figure out what you enjoy, figure out what you don't enjoy, and everything will take care of it from there. Yes, Sydney, you must listen to how you feel and do what's best for you. It's more genuine and honoring your feelings. Yes, absolutely. Sydney, for a bit of context, and for everyone who's just joining or watches this on IGTV, I'm just talking today about my own rant and thoughts and feelings about the coaching industry in general, because I feel like this is a topic that I've been meaning to talk about, and it's always a great thing to talk about it here. So anyways, feel free to drop in with your own 2 cents, Sydney, as well. So circling back, the other thing too that I've noticed as well that pisses me off sometimes is manifestation talk with coaching, which is like the extreme opposite end of the spectrum. Or if you look at it under the lens of masculine energy and feminine energy, it's the whole let's just sit back and wait for things to happen. And fucking hell, is that shit annoying. Yes, it's good to sit back. It's good to also relax and reflect. It's important. That's how we grow, not only in ourselves, but also in our business. But if you think that just by sitting back and manifesting, you're going to suddenly attract a business into your lap, guess again. It doesn't work like that. That's why it's so important as a practice to blend, a healthy mixture of action and reflection, so you're not just coming from this place of wishful thinking. It really bothers me that there are many people who preach manifestation to their community and then almost hit people who don't get the results with this whole line of, oh, well, you're not manifesting hard enough, because that's simply dismissive of the people in this space. And the reality is that manifestation, if you had to break it down, is the result of going inside of yourself, working through a lot of the thoughts and feelings you have, the fears that you have, the shame, the grief, whatever it may be, that's stopping you from getting to where you want to be. Like, for example, fear of success, genuine fear. A lot of people have it. The fear of failure. I've had that. It's not a fun one, and it's a good one to work through. And probably the most common one in entrepreneurship, the fear of not being good enough. The fear that if I take a day off, God help me, my business will explode, and then I suddenly won't be able to, work with anyone because no one will want to be with me because the algorithm will hate me. Working through that is valid and really important. And it's so important to understand that once you do that, you get to a place of detachment with your business where you actually don't really care as much about what happens, which is healthy. It's so important to be in balance. Yes, Sydney, because if you don't have that, then how the hell are you going to have a business which is your muse, that thing that gives you that creative energy, that je ne sais quoi, which allows you to keep coming back from time and time again? I treat my business like a healthy relationship. I need boundaries with it. I need space. I work on it from time to time. And I also enjoy the seasons of it where I need to be by myself and not do anything, because that's healthy. And I think too many of our aspiring coaches mean well, but give messages which imply that this is a be and end all. It's do or die. We have to do this one way or the highway. And even I admit that even in having this conversation, I'm having a bit of that too. But I think it's so fucking important to understand it's not about what anyone else tells you to do. It's about what feels good for you. It's got to feel in alignment for you. It's got to feel like it lifts you up and, inspires you. And, honestly, it may not be, the job that gives you the most amount of money. It may not be the job where you have like tens and billions of clients. I'm actually really happy with just 6 on a week, because any more than that and I start to burn out. And it's because, again, this work is hard and I love it. And I also give a lot of time and effort to the people that I work with. I mean, granted, I feel like it's effortless when I'm with my clients because I really enjoy my time, but emotional labor is still emotional labor. We don't credit enough the amount of work that we actually do in this space, and it's also part of the reason why I also charge my prices for what I charge. Let's also talk about that for a hot minute. Charging for clients to work with us. So for a bit of transparency, I have usually charged my 8-week programs at around about $2,000 or Australian, which I know doesn't obviously line up with the currency conversion, but anyways, that's what I do. And the reason I do that is because it feels right to me, and I do what I call intuitive pricing. I've worked with some people before where I understand where they're coming from. They operate in what's called a high ticket space, where they try and encourage their clients to charge, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 for a 12-week program. And to be completely honest, it just didn't align with me and I didn't love it. I think a lot of those programs are designed with the idea that you only need to have one person who's willing to pay up for that. But I want to actually share you a secret, which is even if people have the money to pay for that amount of money, like for that amount of time and effort, doesn't mean they're an ideal client. Just because someone is willing to fork over a lot of money to work with you doesn't mean they're a good fit. I value the energy of the people that I work with far more than I value the money that they give me. I need the money in order to feel like I'm being compensated for my work, but I'm certainly not about to turn away people who light me up just because they can't afford to pay, a huge amount of money, which is unreasonable. I feel the amount that I charge is great because I don't feel burnt out at the end of it. I feel like, no, that's a good amount. I'm able to pay my bills at the end of the month. And I also feel like this just adds a lot of, it makes me feel great knowing that this is just a really good fit for me. But when coaches are pushing upon people, $10,000 for a program, which ironically enough is usually just therapy with a bit of gloss, I just think that's completely misleading. I'm very transparent and clear that I have come from a background of being a therapist. I combine that modality with a lot of the work that I do as a coach because I enjoy the freedoms and flexibilities of being a coach and getting people to where they want to be. But a lot of coaches, quite honestly, should not be doing this as a business. should not be coaching. They're far better entrepreneurs than they are coaches. And I think a lot of people see this as a get rich quick scheme. And it's why I think a lot of people limit their lifetime value with the people that they're working with. To give you an understanding of what I mean by lifetime value, when I work with my clients, I really enjoy and treasure each and every one that I work with. I really do. I'm very picky with who I work with, and I love them. And when you think about the marketing of lifetime value, it's the idea of having a solid relationship with the people that you work with, right? So when you create a program where you're not really creating a solid relationship or connection with the people that you work with, and they walk out the door once they're finished, they're not going to want to come back. That's a one-time purchase that they're like, yep, thanks, bye, didn't get what I needed out of that experience. The minute that you don't have value to offer, people naturally will walk away. And that's okay. Sometimes the end of that period of offering value happens, and it's okay to walk away with people. But if you come in offering the world and people don't receive the world, and they think that they're paying for the world with a $10,000 coaching program and they don't receive that which they paid for, why the hell would they want to pay for you to work with you again? Because it feels misleading. That's why it's so fucking important to be very mindful of what you charge and also the expectations you set with your clients. And to also, I want to just narrow this down now, let's get honest and real about results. So many coaches, hey Adrian, so many coaches promise the world to their clients. We'll get you the body, we'll get you the relationship, we'll get you, the business that's earning 6 figures. It is so important to understand that as glossy and as nice as those results are, the best thing to be working on is the steps to get to those places. I've been very fortunate with the coaches that I've worked with that they've actually helped me get to those places. And even in getting to those baby steps, it's been work. And I'm really grateful that I can acknowledge and say, oh my God, I'm grateful that I did that work to get to where I need to be. But if you think that suddenly investing in a program is suddenly going to get you what you want, then that's really naive. And it's so important to understand that much of this day by day work is really just reflecting and also figuring out what's working, what's not working, how you want to go. It's essentially refining a skill depending on the coach that you're working with, whether it be in business, whether you're investing in a personal trainer, whether you're investing in me and working through emotional regulation or relationship work. It's so bloody important. Hey, Andrew Cresco. Hey, Kavitha and Kester. It's so important to understand that the day in and day out work that you invest with a coach or a business or whatever you do is not met by the outcomes you achieve, which are lovely. It's about the journey to getting to those outcomes, which is the real slog sometimes, and often the greatest reward too, because that's the thing that we want to be really enjoying, is how much we're growing from where we started to where we want to be. And then the other thing I also just want to talk about is the fact that when it comes to coaching in general as a practice, I think it's really important to understand that I think there are a lot of people, like I've mentioned, who shouldn't be in this space. I really don't. I think a lot of people are coming in here without actually working on themselves, and you can see it in their content, and you can see it just, by getting to know them as well. A lot more people are driven by the outcome than they are to investing in the process, and what that really shows is their own insecurities that they haven't worked through and their own issues that come to the surface. Many people in this space are very well intentioned. I don't think there are many coaches who are malicious. I really don't. But I think a lot of them come from a place of wounding. They haven't worked through their trauma. And if, for instance, God forbid, they don't make their financials by a certain month, it really hurts them. And also, if they are in that loop of constantly searching, for money wherever they can get it, it creates a real cycle of profit, depreciation, and it can really make them feel unconfident and lacking in themselves, and it can really hurt. So when you're coming out of a place of scarcity, which is one of the many places people can come from when they're operating in this space, then it's naturally going to impact the energy that they bring to the table. At my lowest, when I have not been operating out of a place of abundance and I haven't had, a lot of financial security, I'll be honest, I hate getting on sales calls because I feel like I'm just not going to be presenting from a place of authenticity. I'm really just thinking, does this person have the money to pay for, the experience that I'm working with? And it's not a good place to be coming from. And I just think that when you're coming from a place of financial security where you feel good and you also don't need the other person's money, amazing. You're having a conversation between two human beings. The energy is completely different. It's like when you're dating and you're dating out of loneliness. If you're dating out of loneliness, you're going to want the other person's money. The other person's love. You're going to want their attention and you're going to want, the thing that you might call connection. And it's gross. It's completely imbalanced. People can feel it. And that's why it's so important as a representative of whether you're a coach or a therapist is to not allow yourself to be financially dependent on your clients. Easier said than done, I guarantee. Even in the beginning, with the work that I'm doing right now, I'm fortunate that I have income streams which allow me to do what I'm doing without relying on my clients. And that I think also leads on to another aspect of this too, which is boundary fucking setting as a coach or as a therapist. I'm very mindful of who I want to work with. I'm very picky, as I've mentioned. And the reason I do that is because I get burnt out if I work with people where I just don't feel like it's a good energetic fit. Sometimes people will come to me and it's okay. It's okay for me to say, I just don't feel comfortable working with you because I don't feel like I'm a good fit for whatever reason. And it's so important to normalize saying no to people. It's not out of a place of maliciousness. It's not out of a place of this person's inferior, this person's trash, this person is a terrible human being who doesn't deserve help. No, everyone deserves help, but I don't want to help everyone because I can't. I can't save the planet. It's not up to me. It's up to every single person to save themselves. And not everyone is ready for the work that I offer them, and that's okay. It is what it is. And that's why I think it's so important to normalize that for each of us, we don't have to hold ourselves accountable to saying yes to everyone who shows up at our door. It's okay to say no. It's okay to also provide feedback and say, listen, at this time, I don't think that I can help you. I think in order to go forward, what I'd like to see is more self-responsibility. I'd like to see that you actually want to, take care of yourself in this department. I know I've had people come to me before who were in relationship situations which were, honestly, it was a point where, to give a really clear example, they wanted the impossible. They would say to me things like, I want to be with my friends with benefits who's already got a partner and I just want to make them love me. And I understand where a lot of that can come from, but I also just want to say too that I can't help with that because it just goes against my values and my ethics. And so I'm never going to endorse and say, I'm going to support someone with that because it's just not healthy. And it's also not worth it for the money. It actually makes me hate my job when I do that. One thing I really want to make clear is that if you feel like you don't enjoy working with someone, it's going to ruin your mood quicker than anything else. And it's just going to make you not enjoy what you do. And finally, the last thing I want to say too is that I think when it comes to not only coaches, but also therapy as well, it is so damn important to be trauma informed. I think that there's a tendency to do things by the book, to treat things like anxiety and depression like they're a mental illness. They're called that, but that's not what I believe that they are. I think that things like depression and anxiety are a great sign of when we're out of alignment with ourselves. It's also a sign that there are repressed emotions going on, repressed fear for anxiety, and depression is a combination of repressed grief, overwhelm, sadness, burnout, loss of purpose and direction. It's a very real thing. And I think until we're able to, hold space for that, honor those underlying emotions and work through a lot of that stuff, mindset work's not going to cut it. And I think a lot of mental health practices focus on things like cognitive behavior therapy with the purpose of trying to help people to change their thinking, which is lovely in theory, but not very practical if someone's got a lot of trauma in their body. And I also think too that when it comes to coaches who are simply offering mindset work, bypasses the experiences people have had when they've been growing up. So I hope that when we look at this holistically in this space, to anyone who's watching this, I'm not coming on here ranting and being like, oh my God, this is a terrible industry. It's not. It's such a life-giving industry. Really, it's such an amazing industry. And what I'm doing here is actually allowing myself the space to get a lot of this stuff off my chest before the end of the year, which I'm very excited to be talking about, because I think it's so important to have these honest conversations and to be very upfront about the stuff that goes on, because if we're not holding ourselves accountable especially to the people that we're working with, why the hell does anyone want to pay from us? Because it's ridiculous. And I think that it's really important that we also hold ourselves accountable for the work that we do, because if we're not also working on ourselves, what's the point? We're not serving anyone out of a place of authenticity. And the last thing I also want to say too, which is really important, and I talked about this with a colleague of mine yesterday, I think there is this tendency and this narrative in the coaching and therapy space to talk about healing like it's this never-ending journey. That's about as unhealthy as being ignorant of the need to heal in the first place. I think that we have created this culture where it's either do or nothing, or like do or die, where it's extreme pendulum swings. You know, I can actually say with all honesty, I've healed as much as I want to heal for the time being, and I don't really want to do much more. Like seriously, I don't need another bloody self-help book. I don't need to read the latest theory on trauma. I don't need to read more bloody books on codependency, narcissism, or anything like that. I truly get it. Like I really do. And it reflects on the results that I get with my clients. You know, I think we have this tendency to believe that we just need to keep educating ourselves, to keep healing, to keep working, to keep doing. Please, for the love of God, give yourself permission to rest. We don't need to be doing more of everything. It's so important and so healthy to know when enough is enough. And I think that the tendency to overcommit to something is, ironically enough, probably more of a trauma response than the need to stay away from it. Because at the end of the day, that's our perfectionism talking. That's the need to try and control ourselves and to control others. That's not healthy. It's so much better to just be like, yeah, I happen to really like reading some of the updated journals on this sort of thing. Do I feel the need to read like 10 more books on this one subject related to somatic healing, breath work, and all these other latest things? No, it's an individual choice. Discernment is important. So anyways, to round this out, I'm feeling a lot better now off the back of this, is just to say, to anyone who is an aspiring coach, is a coach, or someone who's potentially looking to work with me, I just wanted to give you that bit of insight because I think it's really important to understand the way I think and feel about this, which is ultimately, you know, one man's opinion in an ocean of many, and to help you to make more of an informed choice for yourself on how to lead yourself going forward if you are entering this space on either side as a coach or as a client, and to make way for yourself, and to also understand the rigors of what's involved when you begin a healing journey, when you're becoming an aspiring coach, and also starting a business. Because at the end of the day, the only person who matters in any of this is you and what you want out of this for yourself. So anyways, without further ado, thank you very much for coming to my TED Talk. And I really hope that you guys have a lovely day. Thank you very much for coming. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend ahead of you.